This is something I have to do for me. I love you all. I said I love you. I have to thank you all for being there for me, you know. Everybody, thank you. I would never, ever forget you. And what better place than to end my career in Buffalo, New York.
What's up, everybody? This is Showtime's Fight Forum, where we talk all things fights. I'm your boy, Josh Showtime. Make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. Follow me on all social medias at Josh Showtime or Papa Showtime. Now, today's episode that I genuinely wish I did not have to do. It's a very sad one, unfortunate. But you know, at the end of the day, it just goes to show life is short, and you have to just, live every day in the moment and don't take it for granted. And that's about Anthony Johnson. Rumble freaking Johnson. Young man Rumble. It's a guy, when I first started watching MMA, I've been an MMA guy since 2009. He is one of the guys that I genuinely love and look forward to watch fight. Obviously I'm a black guy, so I used to love watching a lot of the black fighters and be successful because a lot of the champions at the time were, either Brazilian or they were white guys, things like that. But this was one guy who was young and just athletic as hell and just absolutely scary. And I just was always drawn into his fights because he's built like an action figure, but he also fights like one. So it's unfortunate, but he passed away from cancer. If you obviously I followed him on Twitter and Instagram, so you knew that he was in the light heavyweight tournament for Bellator. He didn't look exactly like Rumble, but then he showed who Rumble is once he got the finish. But then he pulled out because of illness, and then he was basically saying, "Hey, what's happening right now is really, really bad, and I just need prayers." So, first thing first, everybody thought it was cancer. So we were saying, if you're sick, cancer, this, that, and the third. We already know what happened with Bozeman, with Chadwick. So it's he must have cancer. But if I remember correctly, he said it wasn't that. And he was basically telling everybody, don't be Twitter doctors and just, let the process play out. And I remember seeing a lot of pictures and the guy was getting small. And here's the thing, and I was going to bring this up anyways. It's not unforeseen that Anthony Johnson will go from really big to really small because that was his MO. If anybody who don't know or didn't know Rumble because you're too young or you didn't really watch him, you only know him from his light heavyweight, he was a welterweight, but he still was the same size as he was as a light heavyweight. The guy was 220, 210, fighting at 170. Had no business fighting at 170. He had a very successful career, but he couldn't ever win a championship because at the end of the day, man, he was cutting way too much weight. If you really think about Anthony Johnson, he never should have been a 170 pounder. Never. At minimum, he should have been at middleweight for a little bit and then went to 205. I don't know how the hell he ever did that. And it's unfortunate because he really should have told and broke secrets on how he did it. But then again, he probably shouldn't have because I'm pretty sure it would have been banned and illegal because there's no way a normal human should be able to cut so much weight. But it's just such an unfortunate situation to find out that he did in fact have a form of cancer and he passed. The guy wasn't 40 yet. Wasn't even 40 yet. And if you guys seen a bunch of my videos, you know that I did, way before he passed, a top 5 scariest strikers that ever existed in MMA. I had Anthony Johnson 2, or actually I had him 3. But yet and still, pound for pound, he very well has an argument for number 1. Because Francis Ngannou is obviously, but he was Francis Ngannou before Francis was ever in MMA. Nobody really want to fight this man. He is the boogeyman of the MMA. He punches you, you wish you'd never get punched. You'd rather get hit with a bat. Simple and plain. The guy was just that strong, that talented. And I remember before his fight with his last fight, I remember a person coming up with a tweet saying, Rumble Johnson has never lost a striking bout, ever. And then I was thinking, and I had to look up his fights. I'm like, you know what? He really hasn't. I don't even think he's ever been dropped. And then come to find out that was true until obviously his last fight got dropped. But he's normal. That's the thing. Nobody ever wanted to test him in the standard department. You couldn't. It was just a ticket time bomb. Go ahead. See what happens. All right, that's what happens. Don't mess with him. Everybody had to wrestle. I saw him knock DC, who has an amazing chin. I seen him knock him all the way across the octagon with just a punch. Like literally, like it was like the Matrix. He punched him so hard he flew across the daggone octagon. And even DC came and said, bro, that's the hardest I've ever been punched. I've never been punched that hard. So, his legacy will always be remembered, in my opinion, as one of the toughest, one of the hardest strikers ever. One of the guys you would never really want to fight. You would want to wrestle, you wouldn't want to fight. Very scary dude. So it's unfortunate. After this, I definitely want to put a little collage together of some of my favorite moments, some of my favorite fights. Once he bumped up to 205 and he started knocking out 205ers, and then he freaking broke Andre Arlovski's teeth at heavyweight. Once again, we're talking about Andre Arlovski, a UFC heavyweight champion. He broke his teeth, flew across the octagon. He broke Glover Teixeira's teeth, flew across the octagon. And this is a 170 pounder. Like I said, man, you'll never find a person that punches like that. I don't think in our existence. It's just, it's on the model. So, rest in peace to one of the greatest uncrowned champions that ever came to the UFC. I remember they had that question out there, and it was like, hey, who were these UFC fighters? Who are the best UFC fighters never won a championship? My first thought was Rumble. Some people said Donald. Some people said like other names, but mine always was like Rumble. I always felt like if Rumble would have just went to heavyweight, and I could be wrong. I'm not saying that I'm right on this, because I very well could be. But I always had the opinion that if he went to heavyweight, he could have very well been champion. Could he have beat Kane? No. Could he beat Stipe? I personally think he could beat Stipe. Could he beat JDS? Yes, he could beat JDS. So I was of the small group that says that he could have been champion had he not had to go against some very good guys. You got to remember, he was in the weight classes with GSP and John Jones, two of the greatest ever in their primes. So, like I said, just props to him. Sad situation. But once again, with your loved ones, make sure you hug them tight. You never know when they're gonna go. Never know when they're gonna get detected with anything. It's always important to tell the people that you love them while you can. And like I said, after this, I definitely want to put a little thoughts on my favorite fights, my favorite moments with Anthony Johnson in there. But I will always remember him. And as a fan of MMA, he is synonymous with what MMA is. And I'm super, super sad about the situation. So unfortunately, it's the end of this episode, and I can't call any more of his fights. I was looking forward to that tournament, but like I said, God has judgment over everything. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure y'all stay blessed and all that good stuff.